So floggers, we're back on floggers with my ADD moments here. These are all examples. This one here, it's kind of soft. We'll pass this one around. We'll see how well that goes. This is a shorter one, therefore it's easy to use. It's more control, right? If it's short, you can keep the flails, as they're called, the falls in line. And then what we would do is literally, we'd set a pillow out to practice. So when you're learning, it's just like that. You want to hit the point. That's why it's like a sport, is you can't just take one of these things and start whacking. You need to be hitting the same spots every time. So this is a flogger. They get Lysol.
They've all been cleaned.
And yeah.
99.9%.
So that one, you can make that one hurt, but it's not necessarily made to hurt. That's still kind of a beginner's tool. This one here is made out of deer skin. This is the softest, one of the softest things you'll ever see. I don't hand this around, but you are all more than welcome to come up and touch any of this on the way up, any of this. The deer skin flogger is great because it's like a back massage. If you go like this right on the shoulder blades, that's how I introduce people to this stuff usually, is that you like massages, right? Give me your back. And they fall in love immediately. It's like, oh, wait a second, these things don't have to hurt. It's all about how you feel, and sometimes it feels good even though it looks intimidating, right? Anybody experienced something that they thought might hurt and they went, oh God, that's wonderful? So, then there's our furry buddies, right? These have fur, rabbit fur. So this thing, you're not going to make that hurt. That's more for dragging around the person. You can use it to kind of tease them. Maybe after you beat them until they're about to break open, the skin's about to bleed, then maybe rub some fur on them. This one has strips that are sting, so even though it's soft, it's got a sting. Like if you're hitting somebody with just the tips like that, you can crack them open. That's another one example of one rabbit fur. Here. This guy's heavy. Since you're behaving with that one, I might pass this around.
Okay.
This is a better example of what an actual good flogger is. This thing is heavy as fuck.
That's awesome.
If you notice, I hold it in my fingers here. Not many people do that. Everybody that preaches, you hold them and it's a full arm motion, but you want to go through the wrist and all this. No, I've always gone like this. If anything, I'm hurting myself. I will get blisters between my fingers when I do it this way. But that is a big old heavy. Now imagine using that thing for a good hour. I'm out of practice when I use those. Sometimes it's called tennis elbow, but it's flogger elbow because of it from your elbow. We will not pass this guy around. This is rubber. This is not just rubber. This is rubber that's got an angle on the tips. You will slice somebody open with this. There will be blood.
Yeah, is there like rules about that or no?
So again, like I said, we get back to the bodily fluid stuff at the dungeon. It's all on your own call. I'm an adult. The other person's a consenting adult. In terms of the health department, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we shouldn't be doing, but it wasn't monitored or regulated because it's kind of one of those gray areas. The dungeon was licensed as a production studio. So with that license, they could operate a business. Now, production studio meant that they were producing BDSM films occasionally, and that they could do whatever they wanted in the space in the meantime. That's when the cops talked to us. So this thing, I mean, you can, you're going to have to clean the table, sorry.
Did you ask the table consent?
You can imagine, it's almost like a tire, right? Like this thing is rough. Rough. It's just little skin marks, they're fine. So its counterpart here, this is like a little, you can pick these up at the adult stores. These you're not so much going to see even at the adult stores, the real ones, like even the other one I'm passing around right now. These are what you'll find at the adult stores. This is, let's play kinky. Look, I've got a whip.
Is that a giant thing you get for graduation?
And like a giant tassel?
So this is fun. You can make this sting and hurt. It also feels nice, kind of like going across the skin. But this tangles up like a bitch. Like this thing is not as functional, especially for somebody who doesn't know how to use it. Thank you. So again, it's just elastic pieces. So if you already look at some of these, you could probably make some of this stuff yourself, right? I like to be like the Martha Stewart of BDSM. It's really easy to make stuff. So for example, this is made by Hustler, right? Hustler is known as an adult, toy company amongst other things. They should not be making floggers. I got this for free in Jamaica from Dr. Dave Goodell, one of the little seminar things. You can see that these two pieces are supposed to stay together, but they are all clearly peeling right off. So this is what not to buy. That thing's horrible. Yes, it's still functional, but I haven't even really used that thing. That's just what happens from it hanging around and being in my bag. Now, people can make their own stuff. I had a creepy stalker dude make this for me. Forgot it's on film. Creepy stalker dude is going to find this video and murder me.
Don't worry, I'll put it
I'll
unlisted.
give you this information. So he made this for me, right? Nice first attempt. Not very functional. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but it's not. It's going to hurt a lot, and it's just not made super well. So those are all floggers. Examples of floggers, also known as cat of nine tails, is what you'll commonly hear, even though there's not 9 balls on them. These are riding crops. Fun part about these is you go to the adult store, they're really overpriced. Anybody ever ride horses or live on a farm or anything like that? Tack stores, you can pick these up at back home in the Midwest. I'm from Chicago area originally. These are made for horses, so it's cheaper when you buy them for horses, and they're usually better made because these are made for horses as opposed to like the crappy ones in the adult stores. These are fun because, for example, clothespins, we'll get to these here. You put those all over the body, right? You can put them anywhere on the body. They really go anywhere on the body. And you can whack them off. So not only... It's fine down there. So not only do you have the pain of the clothespin pinching you, but you can whack them right off, which makes it fun. Whack them off, double entendres. So while we're talking about the clothespins, anywhere anybody can think of that these most commonly go.
Nipples.
Nipples. There's an abbreviation for that. We call it NT, nipple torture. Anybody think of anything else? Cock and ball torture, CBT. Nobody in here is taking psych as a major, are they? CBT also stands for, usually we point this out to the psych students, cognitive behavioral therapy. Kind of the same thing, right? Clothespins on your balls and behavioral therapy. So that's very common. Cock and ball torture is kind of one of the standard, run-of-the-mill things when somebody's booking a session. Now, it may be very light. They just maybe want to feel the rope around it like it's being tied up, or maybe they want you to even just pretend like you're putting clothespins on them. Anywhere else? Female clients. Where might you put these on female clients?
Lips.
Yeah, labia. That is an awesome place to put them, let me tell you. You can also put them on the breast. Usually if you pinch the breast, you can get them covered. I've seen girls with hundreds of clothespins on the boobs. And then you whack them off, exactly. So that's the fun part about using clothespins. You can even see I kind of bruised myself there on that one. That was good, right? That was a good one.
You can also like line them up where you attach them to like a piece of string, and so when you're done, you can just pull them all off at
The
once.
string goes right through that middle area there. You string them so that you just, like a zip line, just rip them all off. So when this is on here, at first it may not feel like much. It's like, okay, whatever, there's a clothespin on me. The longer it stays on there, the more it is going to hurt when you remove it. So the fun part is you put them on and then you start doing something else. You play with them in another way. So maybe that's when you start, maybe you're doing some sensory deprivation. Maybe you're covering their ears or saying things to them or maybe tying them up. They kind of forget they're there, and then all of a sudden it hits them when you stop doing the other thing. Oh God, it hurts, it hurts. And then that's when it's really fun to hit them off because you will hear somebody scream in pain. But the proper way to do it is, if I had 2 hands available, is you unlock this and then hold that with your fingers. So as you remove the clothespin, you use one hand to keep pinching here so that you can slowly release and let the blood back in. It actually will help. That's important to know, for example, if somebody's covered in 200 clothespins and they go red, what are you going to do? Like they're at a point where they've reached their threshold, they can't take any more, and you have to take 200 clothespins off their body. So it's important to know how to do these things when you're playing and know who your partner is, because if you don't want to do drugs and drink and do this. Let's put it that way too. I was going to say, if somebody gets drunk and makes poor choices, I love making poor choices, but it's not smart to do for lots of reasons.
Well, you can't feel pain, so you can end up with nerve damage and all sorts of things if you play when you're drunk or high. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, why can't I move my thumbs?
My wrists don't work anymore. Oh God, I'm peeing blood. Not from an STD. We'll go over that in a second. So these things, these are called pig slappers. Also found at the tack store. That's where I bought this. Good old farm and fleet back home. These are made for getting pigs to move on the farm. When you're trying to get the pigs to load up on the truck or get back in the pen, you're whacking the pigs with them. So that makes it fun for humiliation play too, is you're just a fucking pig. You're piggy, piggy, piggy. It's made for pigs because you're a pig. I'll pass that one around. That one's newer. Those can hurt. You feel in that handle, there's probably a piece of metal, if not acrylic or whatever. This is when you said kidneys, you're dead on there. You've got this is where I'm not going to be a very good artist. We're gonna draw a body here, right? This is a person. Those are arms. That's a torso. That's a butt, right? Kind of. So when you're using these, what are areas to avoid? Yeah, kidneys. Kidneys are number one. You do not want to hit somebody in the kidneys. I've experienced too many times. There are some people out there that are just crazy, and people may think they're a great pro dom, but it's because they're also so extreme that they don't know the harm that's being done to them. There was one mistress in particular that I watched well on this guy, who just beat the shit out of him all night at a play party. He was hitting him continually in the kidneys. He was a cleaning slave at the dungeon. He was pissing blood the next day. Not fun. You don't want to hit the kidneys. Also, areas are the spine, which it's funny when I draw that because it looks like a cock and balls, right? So you don't want to hit the spine. Shoulder blades are also areas that can be iffy when you're using a flogger at spine. When you're using something that has a rigid surface like this, you don't want to do that. One wrong little move and you're going to crack their bones, and you don't want to be cracking people's bones. Same kind of rule for the front side. If it's an area where there's a bone or it's really going to hurt, like hip bones. Something else people do with floggers all the time, inexperienced, and if you become aware and actually watch this, there's a lot of people who do it. Lots of people do not know what the hell they're doing. So when they should be hitting those two spots on the butt, that's mainly, the area you want to hit is right in the middle of the butt. When they're flogging, they'll actually wrap around the thighs. So when you see them hit a person, it's not hitting here, it'll be hitting here. I've seen people marked up completely on the fronts of their thighs because somebody didn't know what they were doing. Which again, maybe they're into that, but it wasn't being done properly. If you're gonna do it properly. Make sure you don't accidentally, that person wasn't into that. So there's a sweet spot too, right? Right in the butt cheeks, right down here. That's what we all commonly refer to as a sweet spot. You've got somebody bent over and you're hitting them right in there. There are a lot of nerves. You can give, immediate pain or pleasure hitting on the person. I don't know if you told them, but we do know somebody who can achieve orgasm just from being hit right there in that spot, right under the butt because of all the nerve endings. Female.
She can have an orgasm from being spanked. Just spanked.
Just spanked. So there's this guy too. He's got a furry side.
Now she said you can break bones like this. Are people, have you ever encountered somebody that is into bone breaking?
Extreme pain, yes. Specifically requesting bone breaking, no. But one of the common ones is caning. I didn't bring a cane in, but it's like an acrylic rod, so it's kind of like what's inside these, or actually bamboo canes. Those are pretty rough too. You got to be careful because when you're hitting them, you can't hit them with the end of it, otherwise you're going to cut them right open. But there are individuals that want to bleed. So and a lot of them, there was a couple clients that wanted X patterns on their butt cheeks. They wanted pained until they were burst open and bleeding on X's on their butts. Pretty painful.
The smaller the implement you're hitting with, the more pain it's going to cause. So if you take any sort of small rod, it will hurt way more than if you hit somebody with a blunt object. And it instantly bruises and welts.
Also with spanking, we kind of went on all this. You typically warm somebody up before you use any of these. There's a warm-up routine. You don't walk in there, that's going to hurt. That hurts. So you use your hands for spanking and warm-up most of the time. You have a good judgment. You can feel the skin warming up. So when you start, you cup your hand too. That's key. You don't open palm it because then you are going to hurt yourself and you aren't going to be able to do it for very long. So you cup, you open palm. You can see the skin getting red. It starts to get red. You can feel it starts to get warm. That's when you know it can take a little more. So maybe you start with the furry side. It doesn't hurt as much. You start, and then once that feels nice and warm, then you go on to the other side because that hurts a lot too.
People are into that. Ping pong
that
balls.
too, there's intimidation. Let's put ping pong balls in your butt. There's other ridiculous things like this. I bought this because this was on sale somewhere. This is absolutely absurd. This thing it's like a stack of belts. It is hard to control, it's heavy as fuck, and if you're going to use this on somebody, they better be able to take pain. You can imagine this is just a pile of belts. Ridiculous. I had to buy it just because I couldn't believe that somebody made that. So bondage, right? Not only do people like to get hit and all that, they like to be tied up. So this is rope. We all have rope, right? We all know what rope feels like. However, there are multiple ways to tie somebody up. Hog tie is very common, you know, where you get them all tied up.
Do you want to tie me up?
Do I want to tie you up? You guys want to see me tie her up?
Did they have to teach you how to do all these?
I got books and taught myself. We also had a visiting mistress from Japan that came in once a month or once every 2 months who was taught by a master in Japan to do traditional shibari, or Japanese rope bondage. She could fully, we had a hoist, so we had this hoist system, and she could fully tie herself up using traditional hemp rope, completely tie herself up, light a candle, drip it on herself, untie herself, and let herself down in less than 15 minutes. Aria, she was amazing. So I watched her a lot. I'm a watch and learn kind of person as an artist. So all I have to do is watch somebody and I'm gonna get. So most rope bondage starts with a very basic harness. It's a chest harness. And one of the things with Japanese rope bondage is there are people who are not into any of this, but they're into the bondage because it's pretty. It's constricting, but it doesn't always have to constrict, you know, hands or feet. That's why this harness is pretty common for starting, because from here you can do a hog tie, from here you can do a tortoise shell where you actually just rope up the whole body. It kind of looks like a rope dress. But it's very particular. It's usually about beauty. The person who gets tied up wants to see themselves looking beautiful in the ropes. So that's kind of a little example. You always start with with a breast harness. And from there, you can drag the person around. You can, from there, you can take the wrist. You can loop this back around. You can tie the wrist up. You can go down there, which is really common, and loop it back up. You can tie a little knot here. So that's a lot of fun. If you tie a little knot here when you're tying a girl up, can you imagine what that knot would feel like? Hold in there. That's pretty nice. You walk around with a knot in there. It's good. Just saying.
That's a happy knot.
So with rope, it's important, again, communication, right? We don't want to cut off blood flow to extremities and whatnot.
And this doesn't hurt at all.
No. And if you've never tried it, you should, because you never know.
You never know what you like till you try.
I always say try getting 3 times, because it may have been done wrong the first 2 times. It's a good rule of thumb. Also with wrists, you know, there's really quick, you just loop them through. Whenever you're tying somebody's wrist up, what I always do, again, not saying everybody does, you can get a finger through there, it's safe. So as long as you make sure you can fit a finger through. And that's something with communication as a pro dom. You're constantly, you feel like you're going to break out a role play, but you have to stop and go, you okay? Are your hands cold? Do I need to untie them? No, they're fine. They're purple. Okay, your hands are purple. We need to untie them now. All things that the dominant, the top, needs to be aware of, because again, we like to use our hands, right? We don't want to lose those. Other forms of bondage. These are made more for decoration, you know, your goth and punk rocker type people. But these are also handy because they snap. So if you're wanting to use these as bondage rings to tie up or do whatever, you can just take them off like that. Now, if you have somebody who's wanting to cause a problem, which you often do, a lot of the clients that came in, they want to push buttons. So say there are cleaning slaves, we have lots of cleaning slaves. Yes, guys will pay people to clean their houses for them. Find them; they're very useful. But be careful when selecting them, because there's a lot of crazy cleaners out there. It's not a good way. So we're going to talk about. I'm watching the time too. If you want to pull the dungeon up, we can talk about the rest of that growth stuff on that.
Okay.
So you'll have people who misbehave. So one example is we had a cleaning slave. He was cleaning these mirrors that we had on the wall. Now they were broken mirrors. They were glued up on the wall. It looked cool. But he cut himself. He cut himself on purpose because we were ignoring him. Mistress, I'm bleeding. Look, I'm bleeding. He's squeezing, like trying to make his finger bleed. We said, go, you know where the first aid kit is. Go take care of yourself. I'm bleeding. No, go take care of yourself. You're a big boy, right? Go do it. They will hurt themselves on purpose or not clean well. You go in and find that the bathroom wasn't clean. They do this because they want to get clean. So it's kind of like this reverse psychology where you got to work with them and go, no, you're going to fucking clean and then I'll beat you. You didn't clean, so I'm not going to beat you. And then they get really frustrated. It's so cute to watch a grown man throw a temper tantrum. So this is an example of a ball gag. This leaves the mouth open so you can do anything with the mouth. This goes into the mouth, prevents the mouth from being able to do anything. There are holes in it. That's really important for breathing. You can see these big rubber ones sometimes. If you're not careful, the person's going to choke.
Anybody seen Pulp Fiction? Okay, that's some scary stuff, and that's the big like ball gag if your nose gets clogged up, you're not going to be able to breathe.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you're crying, and crying is common, it's a release. So for a lot of people, this is kind of like a form of therapy. It's amazing changes you can watch somebody go through. So there's headspace. We didn't really talk about that yet, but headspace is when you get this person to a space where they're gone, they're in the moment. They may be there for a week. Aftercare is really important in BDSM. That's something that's really taught within the local lifestyle communities. Is you're there for that person afterwards. You can't just take them on this journey. It's almost like a drug if you want to think about it that way. Like, would you feed somebody mushrooms and walk away from them, or give them acid and walk away? Probably not. Unless you really didn't like the person. But no drugging people.
No drugging.
But you have to be there to help them because you brought them there. You've done this to them. You need to be able to talk them through afterwards. Give them a hug. Tell them everything's going to be okay. Had a great time. Meet you next week. Collars are common. They often have labels, like this one says "for." Something house slaves will you'll put them on so that you can tell them apart. We had one painting slave we called Snot because the first day he came in had a runny nose. So we called him Snot for the rest of his stay at the dungeon. Collar, nipple clamps. I conveniently lost the screws that ease the tension on them. But this is also a sign of submission. Whenever you see a ring, that means that they can be bound. Doms, typically the tops will not wear anything like this if they do have a collar with spikes on it. It's just those little cues. Do you still have the site?